The Honorable Member for Njoro, Kadambi Chepkonyi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Once again, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you as our Speaker. Let me also take an opportunity to congratulate our Deputy Speaker, our lady. Let me also take an opportunity to thank every Kenyan for voting for our able President William Samoei Ruto. Let me also thank my people, Njoro constituency, for re-electing me once again as their Member of Parliament, Njoro constituency. I stand, Mr. Speaker, sir, to support the list, and I wish to thank you and take that short time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
That is all. The Honorable Irene Mayaka nominated. But before she takes the floor, allow me to recognize the presence of Oloretet Primary School from Narok County, seated at the public gallery. Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just wanted to give my contribution to the motion on the table on the East Africa members. And I just wanted to say, Honorable Speaker, that in my view, I think I agree with the members who say that we need to be very careful in terms of the qualifications that we give the members and those that we bring on board, because right now, one of the biggest issues when you look at some of the things that the East African Assembly has been able to do is that they face difficulties in terms of ensuring that they have policies in place that cut across all our countries, because the frameworks put in place are not usually very comprehensive. So mine is just to urge both sides of the House that ensure when you're bringing members on board that they have the prerequisite qualifications, so that we don't have members who just go there and tick box instead of doing the actual work. I submit. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Kamkunji.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Since it is my first opportunity to speak in the 13th Parliament, I also want to thank the great, wonderful people of Kamkunji for bringing me to this august house. I want to pledge that, as I have done before, I would work for them humbly and respectfully, and work harder even for them in this Parliament. Speaking on the issue of the East African Legislative Assembly, I want to put this particular issue in the context, the global context, the continental context, and the regional context of the geopolitics of our country. And I think the East African community is one of the most important regional institutions, and perhaps the institution with the biggest potential in bringing together the people of the region, not only in terms of economic cooperation, but also eventually the main vision of the East African people is for an East African political federation. And knowing that, in fact, East Africa is our biggest trading partner and our biggest political allies, and the East African Legislative has been the assembly that legislates the laws of this region, it is very important that we send the best people, the best minds that we have in this country. And I must say that in the past elections that we had of the East African Legislative Assembly, unfortunately, the case has always been to push people who have been rejected politically and to use the East African Legislative Assembly more like a garbage dump to get rid of people who perhaps have not been selected for leadership positions in our own country. And you know that the East African Legislative Assembly members are the face of Kenya. And what I think is that we must send the best minds that we have to be able to push the vision, the mission, and the aspiration of the East African people. If you send someone who has no clue, other than the fact that they have been given a position of payment and privilege, then we are failing in that particular objective. And I urge this House and the leadership of the political parties and the leadership of this country to take this particular matter very seriously and to send our best minds to represent us in the East African region, which is going to be a building block for the bigger vision of a united Africa that can play its role on the global arena so that Africa can take its place in the international politics of the world, and we can be heard as a continent, and we can be players on the global stage. The East African community is just a beginning. It is the first steps for us to assert the fact that we want a stronger economic and political East Africa. Then we go to the Africa level, the Africa Union. And now we have the new trade agreement for the whole of Africa. The East African region will play an important role in that. And that's why I think we should be very, very serious in the people that we send there. It's not just a job for the boys and the girls. It's a job for people who can push us forward and can put our name up there and can develop laws and legislations that will lift up and make the East African region a regional power in Africa and a major player in global affairs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'll give the Honorable Andrew Okwome.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me the opportunity. Now, East African Community is a very important institution for the member states. I recall when the membership was still covering only 3 countries. And indeed, I also recall when Kenya was getting independence, and East African Community was really the hope of the 3 countries that it would give us the federation. That has disappeared in the thin air, which is very disappointing. And because of this, I would really wish that as Kenya, we appoint people who can have a hope to unite the whole of East Africa, because what we see today is a conflict. If you take, for example, Lake Victoria, which should be uniting us, it has been a cause for some of the conflicts we have with Uganda and also with Tanzania. You remember Migingo? Most of the time, wars are there. Some of the people come from Uganda, whatever they pretend to be. They arrest our people, they go with them to Uganda, and whatever they do with them, God knows. So I think we want people who can really look at the issues regarding the problems we have as East African Community countries and find a solution. We also need to have people there who can unite us commercially. I heard our president speaking when he met his counterpart in Tanzania. He was crying for commercial unity, the trade. The East African currency that we used to have before the East African Community probably is one of the things that the current community should fight for, so that we have one currency, because that's what will also help us to ensure that the trade in East African Community countries can be viable and help all the members in ensuring that we can have the East African community of our hope, the community that can be of our dream, the community that can move us from where we are to somewhere that can help us all in the trade and, more importantly, political side. We would like a political unity. That's what I referred to earlier when I was talking of the federation. When we have political unity, there are many other goods that we can be able to achieve. We can achieve so much if we are united. I only believe that we are going to give our partners very able members to serve us in this important unity we have in the East African community. Mr. Speaker, sir, thanks for having given me the opportunity, and I hope that my dream will be kept alive by those who will go to East African community. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Gilgil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support this nomination of these members, Mr. Speaker, and this list is very well thought out, and they know their work is also cut out, Mr. Speaker, and the issues that are being raised at the East Africa community, Mr. Speaker, the people who go there must know that they have to defend the position that Kenya holds in terms of our bilateral and multilateral relations in Africa and East Africa specifically, Mr. Speaker. And I hope that the team will also look at all manners as it's stipulated in terms of balance, in terms of even getting new blood, even as we do with institutional memory, Mr. Speaker. I hope that we can be able to also get new, fresh blood, to also get new ideas, to also take to Yala. Mr. Speaker, the issue of disputes that we have with our member states, Mr. Speaker, I think this is an issue that Yala members should be able to address with our neighbors. I mean, starting all the way from Migingo, starting from issues of trade and balances with us and Tanzania, issues of hadas, issues of maize, issues of even Maasais across the two countries. Mr. Speaker, we have had issues between us and Tanzania. I hope that these members will defend the integrity of the boundaries of this country. They will defend that the position Kenya holds, that they hold the aspirations of all Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, that we all don't always give in all the time and we become the underdog all the time, Mr. Speaker. I hope we can be able to reclaim the position that Kenya holds in IALA and in EAC, Mr. Speaker. With those few words, I support the committee and hope that this work could be expedited so that you are able to deal with the timelines at the right time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The member for Keses. The member for Keses. Where is he? He's not here. Wow. Then let me give the member for Malava who was soliciting for a chance to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the committee members, and Mr. Speaker, I would urge them to develop regulations that would guide the House when it comes to actually electing these particular persons, because I recall, Mr. Speaker, in the last Parliament, we talk of regional representation, gender, etc., etc. But, Mr. Speaker, in the last Parliament, we voted actually 3 persons from one community to the East African Assembly. And we were almost voting in another 4th one if it were not an intervention that we do not have gender representation. So I would urge, Muya, you are very familiar with the case, you would actually help this Parliament to ensure that the persons we are voting in, we have actually regional representation in the country. And the persons who will be voted in, I would also imagine, there are persons really who have to represent Kenyans very well. Because I recall sometimes during the last Parliament, the then President of Tanzania, Magufuli, banned our chicks, 5,000 of them alive. I did not hear our representatives in the East African Assembly talking about it. He took away our 1,000 animals, cattle. I didn't hear any voice from our persons who are in the East African Assembly talking about it. So we would that, as Mbui was saying, that maybe the persons we also elect to the Assembly, there are persons really who have to represent our interests, speak about even the ills that are there that are affecting Kenyans. Otherwise, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the names.
Thank you. Member for Bomachoge Borabu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have been looking forward to this particular address. It's the first one. Very quickly, I'd like to support the appointment of the ad hoc committee on the election of the members to the IALA. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by thanking God for the miracle of my election into this House. Mr. Speaker, I'm the Honorable Nolfason Obadia Barongo, MP for Bomachoge Borabu. Mr. Speaker, my journey to this House is also stuff of dreams. I was a vegetable vendor before today, now by the grace of God, an MP. A humbling and inspiring story for another day. Mr. Speaker, like many before me, I'd like to congratulate you and your able deputy as the heads of this assembly. I pray God to grant you good health and wisdom as you lead us in the making of a better country. Mr. Speaker, allow me to profusely thank the people of Bochi, Bombaba, Magenche, and Bokimonge wards for putting aside clanism and charting a new path of unity for Bomachoge Borabu. And they did so, Mr. Speaker, emphatically but peacefully. I want to promise, Mr. Speaker, that I will serve them with diligence and humility. Mr. Speaker, let me also single out my wife and the kids, Jemima and the kids, my mom and dad, siblings, relatives, many friends, my campaign team full of young dreamers for pulling a memorable victory in this election. The ODM party and my leader, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, for issuing me with a ticket that helped my election into this House. Mr. Speaker, sir, not to forget my worthy opponents who did not petition my election. To all of these persons, I would like to say thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, you may know that Bomachoge Borabu is one of two Bomachoges in Kisii County. The other being Bomachoge Chache, represented here by my brother Alpha Miruka. My constituency, Mr. Speaker, has experienced tribal clashes in the past because we border Maasais. Thankfully, lately, peace has prevailed and business has been booming. Mr. Speaker, my constituency boasts of a school called Rio Kindo High School. Mr. Speaker, in last year's KCSE, a staggering 476 students out of 485 managed to score C+ and above. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to praise the head teacher and the staff and the community, and most importantly, the students, for these excellent results. Mr. Speaker, I also had the opportunity of touring my constituency over the weekend. Some schools could be improved. A case in point is a school called Riabu, which has been a beacon of education in my constituency for a long time. Mr. Speaker, it is unthinkable to think that NGCDF will not be there to rescue such schools as Riabu that really need much improvement. Mr. Speaker, I will also champion the elevation of Kenyanya Polytechnic to a national polytechnic and the construction of Gesabakwa Institute so that our students who cannot make it to university can also pursue their careers there. Mr. Speaker, I would like to, in the interest of time, sign off by saying how privileged I am to be the representative of the good people of Bomachoge Borabu and Kenyans at large. And I hope that the discussions we will have here will be geared towards bettering the lives of our people. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First, I would like to support the committee and congratulate the chair and the entire committee for being nominated and elected to this.
Honorable members who have already spoken, it's advisable to log out so that you decongest the screen. I see Honorable Wanjiku Muya still on the screen, unless you are anticipating to speak in the next motion, and several others. If you decongest the screen, you'll help us in managing.
Okay, thank you. So I was congratulating the committee and also say that we are honored as a country today. I think we are hosting the Secretary General of the East African Community, Mr. Peter Mathuki, who is also Kenyan, who is in the country today with the Chief Justice of the East African Court. But Mr. Speaker, what I would like to state here is that as this committee gets down to work, there are very many important things that they need to do. We need to send a strong delegation to the East African community. As we do that, it is one onerous task that this committee has to ensure that they put together a criteria that brings us the best. While I want to acknowledge what my brother has said, Mbui, that we need to continuity in the East African community. It is sad that this is the only country that sweeps everybody out and brings in a new team. And therefore, when we get there as a country, we are disadvantaged because we have to start a fresh page. It is important that we retain 1 or 2 people at the East African community. I do not want to campaign for people there, but I think it is very important we do that. But again, I want to reiterate that we need to send quality representation at the East African Assembly. Quality representation. I think we had good representation in this assembly, and we look forward to having very good and quality representation. Mr. Speaker, sir, you know, during this time when Yala campaigns start, it is a very exciting time. And I want to urge the new members, when these campaigns for Yala start, please stay at the lobby, at the tea place.
Yes.
It is a very interesting time.
There's a point of order from the Honorable Wangwe. Give him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to interrupt my colleague and very good friend, the Deputy Majority Leader, but I want to stand on Standing Order 83, read together with 95. Honorable Speaker, looking at the contribution of members towards this debate and the debate after this one, we look at the debate after Honorable Speaker as being very, very strongly also important, and I feel, Honorable Speaker, if we can call them over to reply, so that we can also engage the next debate. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
As I finish.
Thank you, the Honorable Wangwe. I see quite a bit of interest. What I'll do, I'll give, after the Honorable Baya, I'll give 3 on either side, then call them over.
Okay, thank you. So I was asking...
You have been doing very well in terms of time. Nobody has gone for more than 5 minutes, which is very good.
Okay. So I was telling the new members that during that, please stay in the lobby so you hear the people that are campaigning, hear them out well, listen to them so that we come back here and elect quality people. But more so, please engage them well as they come for campaigns. There'll be very intense campaign at the lobby, at the T. Please stay there so that we end up selecting and electing people that are of very good quality. But I want to wish the team that is going to do this job, the Wanjiku Muya team, please do a good job for us as a country. Give this country honor by ensuring that we elect people that deserve to be in that assembly, not just because your party has said this person must go. This assembly must make that decision. I remember last election, when we were in this chamber, it was about what the party has said, whether the person is quality or not, yes, including the gentleman that my friend shot down. The party said, and therefore we went. I think this time we need to scrutinize everybody's CV. We look at the quality of persons we are selecting and taking there because it's about country. It's not about party and it's not about individuals. That's why this committee is a joint committee of the many parties. Let's not look at which party is sending who. Let's look at the quality of persons, but more so, hear the people when they come here in this chamber to campaign. And I wish those that will come to campaign well, and wish the committee well as they do their job. I thank you, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank my people of Butula for giving me a second chance to represent them in this House. Mr. Speaker, Butula has been unfortunate in the past that one goes only one time. But this time, they gave me a second chance. I want to thank them most sincerely and assure them that I will work with them very closely. Mr. Speaker, as for this motion, I want to support the committee that has been appointed, but add that we need to make sure that the people we take to the IALA are qualified. They can represent our country very well, particularly in trade between our country and the other partners. Mr. Speaker, the quality of the people we take to IALA must be above board. We need to make sure that Kenya is well represented, that Kenya takes people who are going to lead the community into working together for the benefit of the people of East Africa. Mr. Speaker, we who live at the border with Uganda, we know what it is to be together with your neighbors. Mr. Speaker, if your neighbors are not cooperating with you, surely you may not have peace along your borders. Because of bad blood, you can get people fighting over very small issues. So let us have some people, Mr. Speaker, who will be good representatives of us at IALA. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I thank you once more for giving me this opportunity, and I thank the people of Butula for electing me second time. Thank you.
Thank you, the Honorable Johanna Ngeno. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to also ventilate on this IALA issue. Mr. Speaker, I wish to say from the onset that I have no issue with the committee or the select committee which is going to be picking these members. The only thing, Mr. Speaker, is like what my colleagues have discussed, is that we need to get serious on this East African Parliament. So, Speaker, there are so many issues which needs to be ventilated in that Parliament, and we seem to be taking it for granted. And that is why even the question of one dominion, one united East Africa working together, or having even one leadership, Mr. Speaker, we are not making any serious progress because the people who are in that Parliament, Mr. Speaker, may not be taking up serious matters. Mr. Speaker, remember we have so many issues like cross-border clashes. We have a market that we need to look at because we have so many. If we could do trade, very good trade with this within East Africa, Mr. Speaker, I think we'll make serious progress. In my opinion, Mr. Speaker, I wish, like when you look at the formation of this House, Mr. Speaker, we have a fairly young people. When you look at the Senate, Mr. Speaker, we have a middle-aged people. Mr. Speaker, I was thinking, this East African Parliament, we should send these older people, especially these people who've been contesting on presidency and all that, so that they can go and actually debate on heavy matters that touches on East Africa. Mr. Speaker, people like Wajakoya should be sent there, Mr. Speaker. I'm expecting in that list people like Wajakoya, people like Kalonzo Musyoka mwenyewe, people like Raila Odinga, people like Gideon Moi. These are the people, Mr. Speaker, I wish to see in that list because instead of leaving them to roam around our country and actually making our leadership a little bit disrupted, why don't we send these people to that parliament so that they can be debating on serious matters affecting the 3 or 4 countries which are in East Africa? So, Mr. Speaker, my suggestion is that the parties which are going to be picking these individuals, if you pick, please, pick those people. Pick those leaders. ODM should bring us here Raila Odinga. Wiper Party should bring us Kalonzo Musyoka. KANU should bring us Gideon Moi. You see, and even as UDA, we will bring the Kenya Kwanza, we will look maybe for Uhuru Kenyatta. If he wishes, he should also attend. He should be in that list. So Jubilee should bring us Uhuru Kenyatta, because we don't want these great men, these statesmen, to be roaming in the country and giving trouble to our president. They should be in East Africa, debating on matters that are affecting the 4 or 5 countries, and actually ensuring that the rules and the laws that are made in those countries, that are made in that parliament, that affect the 4 countries, are made properly. So, Mr. Speaker, that is my submission, and I'm looking forward to the day that we'll be vetting those members in this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Taveta. Member for Taveta, where is he? He logged in and left? Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to address you again. I want to contribute to the motion and agree with my colleagues who have stated earlier that we need competent people who are able to address issues of multilateral and bilateral interests of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. So I recommend, especially those candidates who come from border towns like Taveta and other areas like Busia, to be considered in those positions, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Omboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was among the very earliest people here. And thank you for this opportunity you've given me to make contribution on this particular matter. Let me begin by congratulating and supporting the list that we have been given of the members who are sitting on that list. The list is so strong. At least I see 2 people with CBS. I also see Ma'am Muya, who has served in that particular assembly and who will be one of the co-chairs. The East African community is a very old institution. The old one did leave several marks in Kenya, including parts of Upper Hill, which we refer to as community. The new one, which began in 1999 and was actualized in 2000, is the one that established this legislative assembly under its Article 9 of its assembly constitution. And is one institution that is very important for our regional coordination, especially on matters culture, trade, economy, and politics. And therefore, I'm looking forward that this team of people will vet and bring us names that really qualify to sit in this assembly. One other yarn I've seen of members who have spoken on this is the fact that we need high quality and even members representing us here with very good level of esteem. I think the search by the immediate former person who has spoken, Dikir here, was just the yearning to find high quality people who can command certain respect within the East African community so that when they walk, when they speak, when they refer to matters Kenya and represent us, they can be felt heavily. So he may have not necessarily just been speaking about the old guys who were in the election recently, but what is the stature of the man we are taking to the East African Assembly? So that when he walks around, he's like an ambassador somewhat, who is actually representing the Kenyan interest, and therefore by his looks, his posture, his experience, it's just enough to actually make representation better. So therefore, I would wish to ask that this committee does its work very well, and when it comes to the elections itself, members, we vet these people and take very high quality people to the assembly. The East African community, and IALA in particular, is so important because there are so many matters that are affecting us. But let me deal with the positive ones, because whenever we talk about this assembly, we tend to deal with the conflict. But we really need now trade between Kenya and Uganda, which has been one of our highest traders with Kenya until when Britain took over. And we need Tanzania because of the high number of plenty of cereals in Tanzania. And we need other products from Congo, which is part of now the expanded East African IALA. And therefore, I want to believe that the people who will be elected to this particular assembly will be people who can tap good relations that can actually improve the movement of goods between the borders so that we benefit from the trade between the East African bloc, and create an assembly that will make laws that will move us towards even closer cooperation, like I had the issue of common currency, like I had the issue of removing the tariff barriers of trade, particularly between Kenya and Tanzania, where we have a lot of grains. I hear there are 14 trade barriers still existing, which needs to be removed, and this will make us have a greater cooperation. Without much ado, Honorable Speaker, Madam Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you.
Speaker. Member for Igembe Central. We have one more person.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I start by saying that I'm grateful to God for this opportunity. I have been really looking for this chance to address, and I'm grateful that I've got it. May I start by thanking God and thanking the people of Igembe Central for really believing in me and trusting in my capacity to lead them as their area MP. May I also congratulate you, Madam Speaker, and the Speaker himself for your election as the Speaker and the Deputy. May I start by saying that I'm grateful to the people of Igembe Central for believing in me, the people of Wadero, Akirangondu, Jiawond, Kangeta, and Igembe East. Thank you very much, and I will fight very hard to deliver on my promises, and I won't let you down. Madam Speaker, I come from Igembe Central, a region that is known for producing what we call internationally as green gold, and locally we call it Marongi, Mira, and Kat. And as we talk, Madam Speaker, that is an industry that has been employing more than 500,000 people. And as we talk today and we deliberate on